John, we can speak now to Richard Fuller from the Conservative Party, Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury. Morning to you. I hope you were able to hear a little bit of our interview there with the Prime Minister. And I'm just curious to know, listening to what he said, what would you be doing now to bring fuel bills down and to make people feel a little bit better off than they feel right now?
Well, first of all, thank you for doing that interview, because the Prime Minister yesterday had his big speech to the nation, and he didn't talk about the thing that's top of people's minds, which is cost of living. And what the Prime Minister in your interview didn't own up to is that under his watch, inflation has gone from a downward trend. It was 2% at the time of the election. It's now double that rate, and it's still going up. And part of that is on energy costs, but also on food costs, things that are in everybody's monthly costs. And one of the reasons for that is because and you asked what we would do differently, was the decisions made by Rachel Reeves last year to significantly increase taxes on employment, which are now working through into higher prices in the shops.
We know, though, that food prices were going up and fuel bills were going up under a Conservative government. So I know what the Prime Minister would say now is that he is trying to, I don't know, fix some of the damage that was done by the previous administration.
Well, yeah, I listened to that piece intently, and you quite rightly sort of made the point that when the Prime Minister said it was all about Ukraine, that was 2 or so years ago, and that was right. And we remember the previous Conservative administration brought in subsidies for people's energy bills. That was when a very significant amount of increases happened. This is different. This is not changes on the international stage. And you're going to hear a lot, I think, over the few months ahead as Labour get ready to whack people with higher taxes in their budget in November, that somehow it's all to do with international factors. But it's important your viewers recognise that the primary reason why prices on energy and other aspects of the weekly shop are going up is because of the decisions made in last year's budget about increasing the costs of hiring people. It is important that wages get increased, of course it is, but it is also the fact that taxes went up, national insurance went up on employers. Employers have to recoup their costs, and that means higher prices in the shops.
I'm still not sure that you said what you would do differently. You've said what you think is going wrong, but what would you be doing differently?
Well, we'd have done different choices on tax. We wouldn't have splurged so much money in terms of excessive tax rises last year and more borrowing. We would have made harder choices on welfare. Labour has run away from any approach on welfare reform. We would have looked to curtail that. That would have meant there would have been less need to raise taxes. We also would have gone harder on productivity improvements in the public sector, trying to make sure that if wages are going up in railways or others, that we get other improvements in services and greater productivity. Those would be a different set of choices than Labour made. But they didn't do any of those things. And as a consequence, 1 year on from what Rachel Reeves said was a once-in-a-parliament level of tax increases, 40 billion, we now have estimates that come this November, there'll be another 40 billion of tax rises, potentially, that Chancellor's going to ask from British people. And that's just not right.
I'm sure you were watching the conference speech very, very closely yesterday. And I wonder if you noticed how the Prime Minister spoke at length about reform, didn't really talk much about the Conservatives. Do you think that's because he is less threatened by the Conservatives?
Well, I think the Prime Minister would much rather fight reform, because I think he probably thinks he has an advantage about them. But if I could just say, I did think it was a little unseemly for a British Prime Minister to go on at such length and in such a personal way in his speech yesterday. As I say, I think it would have been, if I'd been advising the Prime Minister, I'd have said it'd been better for him to have addressed the issues that your interview touched on, which really do matter to people, which is what's the government's policy? He's got the power. He's not in opposition anymore. He's got the power to make decisions. So what is he doing to help people who are facing increasing prices in the shop and are going to look at their energy bills in the next month or the next quarter and see how much they have increased? He didn't do any of that, but went on this long tirade against the party who I think he wants to say is the choice. It's not the Conservative Party. We've got our conference coming up. We're focused on the issues that matter to the British people. We'll be talking about cost of living. We'll be talking about the way in which we make different choices on the economy. We'll be talking about our policies on immigration. And I think then people will see that there is a better alternative available to the people than this current Labour government.
Richard Fuller, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.